Morning, my name's Brendan. I've been 7 years now and I'm originally from Australia. 1 year ago I got married in Kenya. And people often say, why Kenya? Did you marry a Kenyan? That seems obvious. No, I got married in Kenya because I wanted 52 Kenyan children to come to a wedding to my Russian wife. So work that one out. It all started 5 years earlier. I was on a trip in Kenya. I started in Mombasa on the coast and I worked my way up to the Ugandan border, and I got to experience everything in between. This is in 2010, so it's still, fresh from the 2007 violence when there was a lot of ethnic killing and tribal violence. So the country was still sort of healing, but I fell in love with the country right there and then. The people, the place, the atmosphere. Anyone from Africa knows there's something special about Africa, but people that go and visit Africa, I think, can really be touched by it. There's a quote from a former Ghanaian president that said, "I'm not African because I was born in Africa, but because Africa was born in me." And that's how I really feel about Africa. On that trip, I really felt something about Africa just was planted in my heart. Here's a little country boy from Australia, now in Africa, just falling in love with it. On the last night I was in Kenya, I was chatting with a guy called Martin. He leads a youth organisation in Kenya, and they have helped around 40,000 kids over the past 10 years stay out of trouble. And I just said, what is the future for Africa? What is the future for Kenya in particular? What is the way out? You have so much potential, there's resource. What's holding you back? And he said, Brendan, we don't need white man coming here and telling us what to do or just throwing money at the problem. That's not going to fix it. We need to be equipped and empowered to work ourselves out of trouble. We want to get ourselves out of this. And so I said, okay, well, as a Mzungu, which is Swahili for white man, what can I do? He told me about this house around the corner in his community, a 2-bedroom house with 52 children living in it. As an Aussie growing up with one brother, one sister, mum and dad, we had a big 4-bedroom house. And I felt that was too small sometimes. There's 52 kids living in a 2-bedroom house. So I said, take me there. Let's have a look at it. So I walk in and I meet the amazing Mama Rose, this big, beautiful Kenyan lady who's in her mid-50s, and she's the one that's looking after these 50 children. 2 bedrooms, 1 room full of boys, 1 room full of girls. And instantly I knew I had to do something. I could not walk away again being the same way. So long story short, I walked out of there, I came back to Dubai, I started helping where I could with what I would call band-aid fixes, just paying school fees, keeping rent paid, keeping food on the table. Not just me, sorry, a bunch of friends. And at one point I realized this is not what Martin said. This is not self-sustaining. This is not equipping and empowering the locals. This is not the long-term solution. So with a group of friends, we founded a charity called We Care, which is this logo here. And it wasn't because there was not enough charities out there. There's lots of charities in Africa, and some are doing a great job, not all. So it wasn't to make a new charity, but it was just to be able to have a personal impact on these kids and have a platform where we could access sustainable funding, where we could access capital and means, where we could really set a platform for sustainable change. My goal with We Care is to put ourselves out of business. I really want to set a community project, a self-sustaining community project, to put ourselves out of business. So We Care was born, and it was at this time actually I met my wife. She was working on another charity project in Kenya, and I managed to get her on board at the same time we were founding the charity. So I think that really got her interested in our project, and maybe even me, and luckily enough she married me. So this is why we ended up getting married in Kenya. For me, I felt like sometimes though over the past couple of years is paying rent enough, or is keeping food on the table enough? Is it really helping? And just one quick story of a girl called Janet. Janet is 13 years old now. She came into our home at 11 years old. She came from a family where her mother passed away, so her father was abusing her sexually. Then her uncle was abusing her sexually. And she was then rescued into our home, luckily enough. And for the first 5, 6 months, she was not talking. She was pretty much emotionally traumatized. And especially with men, she would not talk to men, and completely understandable. And I remember about 6 months after she came into the home, I was there with my grandparents and my wife, and we heard this horrendously loud, joyful laugh. And we turned around, and it was Janet. She was smiling. It was just something like something broke in her. And we were talking to Mama Rose about that later, and we said, what's happened with Janet? How has she been rehabilitated? And she was just talking about the love that she tried to impart on her. And what unknowingly we did was, by funding the home, by keeping them rent paid, by the bills being paid, Mama didn't have to go out and beg anymore. She wasn't out in the streets begging. She was home creating a family atmosphere, a safe environment. And through that environment, Janet got to experience real love and got to become her own person. Janet had never been to school up until that point, by the way. 6 months later, when we were talking with her about what her dreams were about the future, she wanted to be a teacher. And we asked her why, and she goes, I want to teach other people. I want to give people what I didn't have. That just blew me away. What I want to encourage today, and what I've learned from my story, is I'm just a standard guy. I work in a standard job here. I don't earn great amounts of money, and I don't perceive I can do large amounts of things. But you can do something. Never underestimate the impact you can have. And I encourage you to have that impact on other people. Brian, he's an incredibly intelligent boy. He's 13 years old, 14 years now. He's in high school. He got one of the highest marks in his region for schooling. And if you see the school they go to, it's dimly lit, mud floors, no light. And Brian now has to wear glasses because he's got a problem with his eyesight. And how that problem came about is he used to have to study in the dark. And that, again, just blew me away. This kid came from nothing. He has nothing, yet he managed to get one of the top scores around. And in that process, he's damaged his eyesight physically by trying to study in the dark. I mean, simple fixes like some solar panelled lights can fix that. They cost 500 dirham. Little things like this make a world of a difference in somebody's life. And these kids we're trying to bring up and encourage to then turn back into their community. We care. We don't want to be there forever. We're not the solution, but we're going to equip and empower these locals, these Kenyans, to work themselves out of trouble. And I just really want to end on that point is just do not underestimate your influence with these people. I didn't think I was doing anything. 5 years on, I look back and we have had 70 kids come through the home, and every kid's now in school, never getting kicked out. Every kid's fed. Mama Rose is now not on the street begging as she should not be. And we're almost at the point where we're about to build these guys a brand new home, something I would never have dreamt about before. I want to just mention one thing with Brian. Brian is so smart. He's written a book already as a child. He's written a book for children, and his goal in life is to be an aeronautical engineer. His backup plan is to be in physics. I didn't even go well. I dropped out of physics. And this kid's backup plan is physics. So just never underestimate your impact on those around you.
Thank you.